Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this session of Trajectory Tuesdays that's focusing on professional social media. We're going to be focusing on LinkedIn because LinkedIn is the main platform that we think about when we think about professional social media. So this is going to be really quick. And I'm happy to entertain your questions at the end. If you have any questions, as the session is going forward, you can put them in the chat, and I have two good tech ambassadors that will help you with any questions or problems you have during this session. But with that, let's get started. Okay, so why do we care about professional social media? I'm sure all of you know that social media is now ubiquitous. It's everywhere. And this is a relatively new phenomenon, but we can see with these statistics from January 2020 that the penetration of these technologies is quite large. And this is before the pandemic. So who knows what penetration we're at now, right? So 7.75 billion people in the world, 49% of these are active social media users. If we look at the most popular social media platforms, and we can see some of these figures may be a little more, a little less, but you can see the relative use of each platform. Facebook has the most penetration in the world, followed by Instagram. And you can see LinkedIn is sort of down there at 310 million people, but it's a very fast growing platform. Every second, 2 new members join LinkedIn, right? So it's growing quite rapidly. It's now owned by Microsoft, which is going to have an impact on it as well. More than 43 million college students and recent graduates belong to LinkedIn. These college students are LinkedIn's fastest growing demographic. And something you should be aware of is 92%, and I bet this is higher now, 92% of companies use social media for recruitment, and 96 of those use LinkedIn, right? So lots of companies out there using it. If you're in the Walton College or engineering, you probably have heard of LinkedIn and maybe know why you need to use it. Right? Because it's, especially in the business world, it's much more common to use this platform. But sometimes it's not that apparent to maybe people in the humanities and other majors. But if we look at why you should have a professional presence in the online world, I think it really applies to everybody. Right? So if someone Googles you, what are they going to find? You want to make sure that whether you're going to be, an industry professional, a banker, a doctor, a lawyer, and so forth, that when someone Googles you, they find something positive. Now, one thing I will mention, the CIA recruits here on campus, and if you want to be a CIA agent or an FBI agent, you need to establish 0 social media presence, right? They want you to have a very low profile, literally, right? But for everybody else, if people Google you, you want them to find the professional you. And as students, you're sort of an emerging professional you. So you want whatever they find to present a positive picture of you in the online world, the professional you, your professional story, your personal brand. All of these things mean the same thing. But in the humanities and those kind of areas, I'm a history PhD, we don't tend to think of branding as appropriate for us, right? We talk more about stories, right? But these all mean the same thing. This is about your personal brand. The other thing you can do with LinkedIn is you can research companies and careers, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. You can increase your professional knowledge by seeing what these people are posting about, and you can use it for networking. One thing I like to tell students about LinkedIn is think of LinkedIn as your portfolio or the possibility of your portfolio, right? So you're familiar, I'm sure, with your resume, but your resume can be kind of flat, right? It's a list of experiences with maybe a few details about your skills and accomplishments. But with a digital resume, and this is what LinkedIn starts to provide you, you can add to this. It's more than a resume. You can collect content and you can add content to it. You can add photographs, you can add videos, you can add blogs, articles, right? All kinds of things to this profile. Let's look at the profile, and I'll give you a few tips, right? The first is you must have a photograph. Lots of people, when they're looking at your profile, they won't stop to look at it at all if there isn't a photograph. You need something professional. These 4 photographs here are actual U of A student LinkedIn photographs. And I hope you can see right away which ones I would recommend and which ones I wouldn't. Yes, I recommend, and as does everybody else, that you have a professional photograph. Now that can be taken professionally. If you, the Career Center does headshots and some of the other career events on campus, you can get these sometimes. Not so much in the pandemic, but sometimes the Honors College offers it as well. And I'm sure we'll do that again soon. But the main thing you want to have is you look professional, even if your friend takes it from you, for you. And this means different things in different industries. If you're an artist, you might want to look artistic. We had a student, a history student, who wanted to go to the University of Colorado, and he was very intentional about his headshot. He was wearing a flannel shirt. He'd already sort of pictured himself hiking in grad school in Colorado, right? So he really thought about it. And there's a cover shot as well that many of you will be familiar with, right? You want to think about what that is, because unlike a resume now, you're illustrating who you are. You don't want to have somebody else in the photograph, right? This isn't Facebook, this isn't Instagram. It's just you, and it needs to be serious and it needs to be professional. Okay, the hardest thing about LinkedIn for many students is the headline, right? Joe Smith, and then you have to put who you are and what you're doing. So there are many ways of doing this, but here are some tips for a starting point for students. Firstly, and you can kind of brainstorm these out, say something solid about where you are. Be honest about where you are now in your story, but do not undersell yourself. Never undersell yourself. Never oversell, but walk the line. Right, so here we go. Here's a couple of examples. I am an honors computer science major with a passion for artificial intelligence, right? That's something solid about where you are. I'm an honors English major who will be graduating magna cum laude with a pre-law minor. Next, kind of brainstorm about where you're headed. I want to work in a company or a firm taking a lead in artificial intelligence. My extensive volunteer experience with local agencies has given me a passion for public interest law. Okay, so you have where you are, where you're headed. Now something else, something that defines your essence, right? And some of these won't appeal to you, but think of the way you would express this same thing, right? I have an insane drive, and coding skills. I want to help people not just be heard, but be listened to. And once you've sort of brainstormed all this out, pull it together and make it sing, right? I'm an honors computer science major with a passion for artificial intelligence. I want to put my insane drive and coding skills to work at a pioneering AI firm, right? I'm graduating magna cum laude with an English major, a pre-law minor, and extensive experience in civil rights advocacy. I have a passion for helping people find their voice and be heard. Then do a reality check. Is this me? Will it be clear? Will it excite the reader who doesn't know me? Next, you want to think about what experience you're going to put on your profile. Yes, internships. Yes, paid work, but also unpaid work. Students are terrible at this part, right? They want to be an art historian and they only give me Taco Bell on their resume and their LinkedIn. Okay, it's fine to work at Taco Bell. Taco Bell is a great place, but you have other things you're doing as a student that are going to be useful as well, right? You're on committees. You've done projects, especially if you're in engineering. If you're in the Walton College, some sort of project work that you did in a class, it's fine. Relevant coursework is fine. Research, community service, you've been a mentor, you've been an ambassador, you've studied abroad. Study abroad and other internships too can be, you can blog about those in a LinkedIn article that I'll talk about in a minute.
Where would you include all that stuff on your LinkedIn?
I'm going to show you. Good
Gotcha.
question.
Awesome.
Okay, so here we go. This is where students try to put it, right? They know all this stuff. They've been an honors college ambassador. They're on these committees. So what they do is, in the case of this guy, he has one job on here, sales associate at the paper store, right? And he put everything else in the education section. And this is not sort of students' fault, because in order to do this well, you kind of have to ignore the directions on LinkedIn, right? You kind of have to fake it, right? So in the work, in the experience section, you're actually going to put some of your committee stuff like this, right? This is the same student. He wanted to be an art historian, but he only had one thing in his experience section, which was sales associate. But he had all this great volunteer work. So what we did is we pulled that out, right? He'd been on the Distinguished Lectures Committee. So we turned those just little, one thing, the list basically, into a series of jobs. And then you can do that and then kind of curate which ones you want to keep in that way. But I would pull them out and put them right into the experience section. It doesn't say, and sometimes students get fooled by this because there's also a volunteer section. Just ignore that, right? Your students, you want to curate your brand by using that experience section. You can use some of it in the education section as well, but play around with it and play around with what it looks like. Did that answer your question partially?
Yes, man, that helps a lot.
Okay, I'll show you more examples and then you'll get a better idea, and you can tell me too what you're thinking about, and we can discuss that. So here, this is the next step to this, right? Once you've pulled things out into your experience section, now start to think of this as a digital portfolio and enrich this story with other artifacts, right? Do you have any photographs of the time you did that thing? Especially writing samples, study abroad blogs, write a blog, write an article. This guy here, he was the student body president, but he had also been written for the Traveler and things like that, I think. And so we were able to link those articles that he had written right to his LinkedIn account, right? So it's better than a resume. You can write that on a resume, but with LinkedIn, you can link right to it. So LinkedIn has, and I'll show you an example, a part of an example. LinkedIn has this function that's called articles, right? So you can write your own articles, which are basically the same as blogs. We also, in the Honors College, have a blog site that we showcase really cool stories, but I'm starting a new blog site that we're going to put a greater volume of blogs and projects on it. So if you have something you'd like to write up, you can contact me as well if you'd rather have it on a website blog than as a LinkedIn article. Let's see, do I have any other examples from that? But you can see there, those little where it says 25 questions and make your mark, those are actually things he had written. So LinkedIn, as I mentioned, also has a built-in article system. So you can write your own articles. And if you've ever applied or intend to apply for a study abroad grant, you have to write a blog after on your experience. And for a long time, we only put up on our blog the very best and coolest experiences, right? So a lot of students didn't get their blog published. So I advised them, well, just publish it on LinkedIn and then link it to that study abroad experience on your profile. And this was one girl, I've blacked out her name, but she went to a French language school and she had the photographs. So she wrote a little article about her experience. And then an employer is both seeing your writing sample and knows that you can communicate using words, you know how to use technology, you know how to use photographs. It starts to really build out your portfolio. These LinkedIn articles also are useful because they have URLs, so they have their own web address, and you can use them for other things, right? You can send them to people and they can get right to your article. LinkedIn itself is also really good for both for research on different careers and for networking with people within those careers. So these two screen prints that I've done here, they are, I use the search term museum because we have a lot of students that are interested in museum work. So the first list is a list of people. And these are people that work in jobs that are associated with the search term museum. And I can see from looking at them right away that they all know someone that I know that's in my network. And LinkedIn, you don't have friends, you have connections, right? So you connect with other people. And I can see who my connections are connected to. So for example, on this list, I see that a few of my connections are connected to Jill Wagar, the Chief Strategy Officer at Crystal Bridges. So if I were interested in a career in museums, I would ask my friends. You can see there, it's listed underneath her name, Rachel Hutchins, Megan Bollinger, and 20 other shared connections. I can ask those people, could you introduce me to this person? And I can make the connection that way. And there are a series of other people. The other thing I can do when I'm looking at these people, if I click on their profile, I can see what their career history has been, right? Like what are the steps if I want to be the chief strategy officer at Crystal Bridges? What are the steps that I need to do in my career to get to that level? What degree do they have, right? Do they need an advanced degree and so forth? The other thing you can do is you can look at the other screen print is jobs that are available that are associated with that search term, museums. So I can click on these things and see, you know, what's the salary range? What are the job duties? Is this something I'd be interested in doing? What are the qualifications and so forth? So I can see positions, I can see people, and people can also repost articles. LinkedIn is very similar to Facebook in the way it operates, right? You can repost articles and you can see what people are reading. This is professional. And so they're posting things that are interesting to other people in their fields. And so there's a whole range of things that you can do with LinkedIn. I'll just mention here at the end the other platform that I think that you should become familiar with, which is Handshake. Handshake is our career network and recruiting platform that we use here at the university, but it's used across the United States. So there are companies posting jobs from all over. You can search jobs and internships here as well. Your profile is somewhat automatically populated, but you need to check it out and tune it up for when you're ready to apply for jobs and internships that are within this platform. And there's the web address there, uark.handshake.com. So that was a very brief introduction to LinkedIn and also an introduction to myself. I should have introduced myself at the beginning. My name is Louise Hancox, and I'm the Director of Career Innovation for the Honors College. So if you would like some help on your LinkedIn profile, you are more than welcome to contact me. The best way is to contact me by email at lhancox@uark.edu.